And let me bring in my co-host. Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
Manny,
I'm good.
how are
I'm good.
you? Good, good. How are you? Yeah. So, welcome everybody to our the second episode of the Elusive AI. And again, I am Mary. I'm based in Chicago, and then I have Manny from London. As you can see, both of us have backgrounds from our respective cities. So, very exciting. And as such, we're going to talk about AI. And this is our second episode. So if you come back again to our show, we want to thank you very much for coming. And it's really nice too. So let's kind of take a little quick look at review of what we did. We did our first episode a month ago in October. So we plan to do this at least a month, once a month, if not maybe once every 3 weeks, if possible. The thing is, each one of us, we have our day jobs, and so we're quite busy too. And as such, we were just talking about it. Me and Manny were talking about how, I myself too came from technical background as an engineer, and so is Manny too. Manny's also very technical. However, we're finding that these days we actually have to hop in, and help out with sales, marketing, all these things. Well, that's just how things go. So it's like okay, and it's not like our usual, kind of expertise area. So some things too, it takes time to kind of get used to how do we do it and all these things. So anyway, we're busy, so we love to be kind of connecting right on the technology side and bring to you, exciting things in the especially in the field of artificial intelligence, and that's what we're be talking about. So yeah, so this is very nice, yeah, Manny. And did I forget anything? That's why that sometimes we're trying to do too many things, and so we try to help each other. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think you covered it fine. We could probably just summarize a little bit of what we spoke about
mm,
last episode.
yeah,
So one of the things we've done to help all the viewers, especially those who did not get to watch it live, but obviously have the video. I know it's a 50 minutes video, so what we did is we summarized all
mm,
of that into snippets, and they are time stamped, and they actually go to different time segments of the video, and they're summarized for you to understand, so you can actually just jump to the section that interests you most and watch that bit. And yeah, we have been now and then only sparingly using AI to make our work interesting. So we can cover that in some other time in some other episode. So over to you, Mary. Whatever summary you have in mind.
Summary. Yeah,
I,
sure.
I kind
So
of don't remember everything, but I'm sure you have a great
sure.
memory.
Oh well, I try. Okay, so yes, so we talk about right discriminative or kind of traditional, right? The way we describe discriminative AI, traditional AI just versus generative AI models, and we also talk about differences in their training methods, their data requirements, all of these things, and then the evolution of natural language processing. We've also talked about that too, and also some like real world applications, I guess, or maybe that's something we're going to be talking about this time. We talk about also the timeline of AI development, also about deterministic versus like non-deterministic AI too, which is so important. And that's what generative AI is mostly non-deterministic. That's why we're a lot of things are not too predictable, from all the results. And then also we talk about, using AI to verify other AI outputs. And then also compare a bit about relationship between AI, machine learning, and deep learning relationships. Although this kind of thing is what we will be talking about in a future episode, because we need to understand it clearly, the AI, machine learning, and deep learning, how they all relate to one another. And that's what is, kind of dictate, not, I shouldn't say dictating, but guiding us, in this whole evolution of AI as well. And then, of course, also the data science position as well, right? And how does data science fits into this whole ecosystem as well? So I think that's what we talked about last time, and that's already a lot of things, although kind of a bit on the surface area. So
Yeah,
we hope
exactly.
to, in upcoming episodes too, we're going to dive deeper into it, and also with code example too. So, yep. So yeah, And does it sound like what we had talked about? Did I remember
Yeah, yeah. I
something?
think I think I think we I think it sounds like we've touched a lot of touch points of many different areas of this huge topic, isn't it?
That's right.
And there are things we didn't get to cover the last time, like there's ethical considerations, technical comparisons, real world examples, the limitations and challenges. What are the future developments, which is like a constant moving target,
That's
and what are the data requirements for any of these things, right? And the
true.
computational resources required to do
Yes.
any of these things. And
Yeah.
no, most importantly, like a lot of people in the industry focus on interpretability and explainability. Like,
That's
if AI is saying this is what is the right answer for you, how is that
yeah.
this is the right answer for you?
Yeah.
um, and there's a lot of hybrid approaches happening as well. We never talked about that. Like, it's not just one type.
True.
People are combining discriminative and generative together.
Yeah.
um, and then we're forgetting about the regulatory landscape, which is
Ah,
developing and picking up quite a bit. Like, some
true.
models and some things and some AI solutions are not accepted or available or allowed in different parts of the world. And you can see
True.
that when you go on your AWS accounts, or you go to your Hugging Space, or you go to somewhere on Kaggle to download models, and then you'll see some models are restricted. And Hugging Face has this thing where you have to acknowledge and you have to accept the terms and conditions. And I don't know if people of certain regions where those models are banned or not
Yeah.
allowed or not visible, what happens to them?
Right.
Do they get to see the model or not get to accept the model? So those are the things we never touched upon and how AI is also impacting the different domains,
That's
right?
right.
That's
Yeah.
a topic of its own, right? And we
Yeah.
won't even have all the knowledge and answer on it. We'll be able to touch all the known ones to us, right? But there are a lot of smaller and
Sure.
niche ones where it may
Yeah.
be affecting fully or not affecting at all.
That's right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
so so there's a whole the sky is the limit, right? There's a whole
True.
oyster full of or an ocean full of topics. If
Yeah.
that's the right
Totally.
analogy to pick. So yeah, what do you have in mind for this episode,
Yeah, for
Mary?
this episode, yeah, we're gonna be kind of, the thing is too is that we last time, as we kind of already went through, we touch on a lot of topics and kind of quickly, but there are lots of gaps as well. So we want to be able to go back, it's much like what we actually want the AI to do is to be able to go back, like us humans too, we go back and fill in all these gaps and what did we miss, like that type
Yeah,
of stuff. So today's
correct.
episode too, like we're gonna just not talk for too long, like the normal within an hour. We want to kind of start to fill in some of the gaps, right? For example,
Yeah.
like discriminative versus generative AI and the historical context of these things. There are still a lot of details that we like to point out as well. Things like other kind of related topic areas of these things. So we're gonna like kind of go back and revise and
Hmm.
kind of enrich what we already talk about too.
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
but but before we start too, I thought it would be interesting, right? Because there's just so much news going on, but I thought this one thing is quite interesting. I
Hmm.
saw, right? And of course, this is beginning of November, but we just had Halloween on October 31st, which was last week. And interestingly, in Dublin too, somebody, right, came out with a fake news, and that was all AI generated. That's a fake AI generated Halloween parade event in Dublin. And so people all believed it and they filled the streets. And then guess what? That parade never happened because it was just fake. And interestingly, this news too that I was reading on independent news based in the UK, and they were saying it's actually came out of Pakistan. Somebody like generated a fake news. There will be, parade in Dublin and whatever the address, and it fills the street essentially. So that kind of stuff, I think that's the kind of thing we need to be kind of careful about, right? And then we,
Mm.
we talk
Well,
about
that sounds like 1st of April on the 31st of October, right?
this is true. Like
Right,
yeah,
like an
true,
April
true.
Fool prank
Yeah,
played on the 31st of
of
October.
the 1st of October and happens to be Halloween too. So
Yeah.
yeah. So those are the kind of things I think as much as AI seems fascinating, whatever it can do, but we all when we're consumers, we have to be extra careful, really question and be skeptical. What it comes out, is it true? There's got to be some ways of us to verify whatever information comes across is true or not. And of course, it would be even more difficult is if there are faked images, right? And could be like the president, for example. Now we got Trump elected again. Well, don't mean to get into politics, and that's not the goal of this, but it's funny too. Like, could people come out and, whatever it is, and put words into his mouth and put his images, his videos, and saying some things that he didn't say as though he said it, and that type of stuff. So we need to be very careful too, as consumer of this fascinating technology. Is full of contradictions too, and
Yeah,
also traps everywhere. So we
yeah.
do need to
So,
be very careful.
well, what is to say this thing that we are watching just now is
Yeah.
not AI generated?
That's true.
Yeah. The background, anyways, is AI generated, right? The
Yeah.
video is enhanced by some technology,
Yeah.
and what stops this, whatever is generating this, to generate things that we would be saying, because they must have seen videos of us in the past. You're quite a prominent figure in the
Oh,
speaker world. They
yeah.
must have picked up some few talks of yours and compiled them together, and the AI is understood that you now following a lot of AI, and so it's just introduced. It could be possible, right? For example,
It's
if you know
yeah.
Notebook LLM, if
Oh,
you've heard of
yes.
it, the podcast generator. What if
Yeah.
this is a video podcast generator generating this?
Oh,
But
you're
anyways,
right.
I don't
Yeah.
want to trip. I don't want to trip this conversation to some other direction.
Sure.
Please
Sure.
continue with your news that
Oh, no.
you wanted to
Oh,
share about.
news?
Like,
Yeah. I think I'd say, that's the first and foremost, is because we just had Halloween. So that was the one I thought I should bring it up, and as an example of how, AI
yeah,
could kind of go wrong and lead us the
yeah,
wrong way. And
yeah,
but that would be okay. It didn't cause any harm. But what if, AI could be coming out and, do something malicious that could
yeah,
hurt people, right?
yeah,
And that would
absolutely. And people
or
make wrong decisions from that. I mean,
that's
the fact it passed through, it's possible it came across, it was
yeah,
a false positive,
that's right.
or like and it got overlooked, and then it
That's
was
right.
just let through.
Yeah.
But it's really hard, even though you're saying we must be careful, like, so that means we'll have to suspect and be suspicious about every step in our life, about
Yes.
everything we say, a message we get from a friend, or something we see on TV, or like, what if this thing that we know about that's happening in your country, what if
Yeah.
that is all staged and actually no one's doing anything, they're all sitting in their homes and somebody else is, like, doing
That's
something,
right.
what, because we are only believing what's written in the media and what's on television, right? We are not
Exactly.
present in those places to
Yeah.
confirm it. Of course,
Yeah.
you are physically in that country, so you could probably go about, where is it, DC, and find out if that's really the case. I'm sure they
That's
won't let you anywhere close there to
yeah.
even have a look. But yeah,
That's right.
so there are so many things to consider, isn't it?
Exactly, totally. So
Yeah,
yeah. So that's kind of like the news of the week of the episode that I thought let me share before we get into the meat of this episode. So yeah, so I hope that's helpful too. I try to also maybe read up too, and there's a lot of news, exciting and interesting too, that we need to be aware of again. So yeah. But how about then we get into our what our plan is, right? To talk
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah. Why don't you unfold the Pandora box and
Yeah. Oh,
open up the Pandora box before us, and
yeah,
and
sure.
tell us what exactly we're going to be doing this episode,
In this
and maybe
episode,
not everything in this episode, but enough of the things
sure.
we'll be doing in this episode,
Yeah,
and then take it from there,
sure,
because I'm sure everybody is interested in us
sure.
hearing, and I know we should also invite our guests to come in and comment and
That's right.
raise questions and raise
Yes.
discussions.
Totally, totally. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, as I said, right, we're kind of starting. This is only the second episode, in the middle of us kind of very busy schedule, but we want to still keep like a nice cadence, right? 3 to 4 weeks we would do an episode. So, don't want to miss that cadence. So, anyway, again, so as such, there's so much to talk about. So, let's kind of go in, as I mentioned, that we like to fill the gaps of what we had missed in the very first time when we talk about AI. So some historical context, right? We should start by that, and it is essentially a brief timeline of AI development, right? Focusing on the transition, from discriminative to generative models. I think that's actually will be quite interesting to talk about how did we get to the generative models, right, from the original, the discriminative
Hmm.
models, right? So yeah, so I think Manny would have a lot more deeper insight. Manny, you've been working with AI, machine learning from originally you
Yeah,
doing
yeah. Since 1950s, I've been working.
50s.
Possibly even before that.
Ah,
Well, this
19.
is an AI generated
Oh,
video, right?
I mean, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So we
that's
could
right.
say 1900s as well, if it
That's
thinks there
true.
was AI at that time.
That's
Yeah,
true.
but please go ahead with the schedule for this. Don't worry about my jokes.
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem. But yeah, like I said, we want to talk about the history too, right? Of the how did discriminative AI at first when it started, and I know too, right? The traditional way we want to do machine learning, we're focusing on the data sets and all of these things, and you go through. I guess I forgot all of the individual steps, but you essentially have to gather all your data, go through. There's a lot of cleansing, so to speak, right? You kind of filtering it and all of these things. And I think that's where the term also comes in is a feature, this feature data set that you want to reach, right? Go through this feature engineering process to get to
Correct.
that point.
Correct.
All these, and actually, that's still very much the same procedure, but it happens that people are all of a sudden like fascinated by the outcomes of generative AI and what it can do, right? Do all these fancy things. And the thing is, people don't actually talk so much about the models, how they get trained, all of these things. And so now, from a historical context, right, and how we started and how do we get to the generative AI, what happens during the transition, right, from
Mhm.
one kind of model to another kind? Are there differences? Can you still use the old model to use it for generative purpose? Is it more like through refinement? You can kind of turn it from discriminative models to generative models?
So
That's actually a
yeah, we could talk about it. That's actually an interesting question. Actually, we could talk about it, and then we. I don't want to segue into that conversation
sure.
and miss out on the other topics we're going to be covering on. So, what would be other than what are additional topics in addition to
Oh
the
yeah, sure,
timeline
sure, sure,
that we would be
sure.
covering?
Yeah, sure, sure. Within the timeline, we also want to do some technical comparisons, right?
Hmm.
And explore, also architecture side of discriminative versus like generative AI models.
Hmm.
Some of the key differences, in how they, the training methods and data requirements too. That's also, more of the technical details. And then also then very important kind of techniques, right, as based on like natural language processing, right, that whole evolution. And in fact too, even I started studying more, knowing that not just NLP, but there's NLG, like the natural language generation.
Generation,
And
yeah.
yeah, and also I think there's an NL, is it
NLU, natural language
U,
understanding.
understanding, and then also the generation part. So
Hmm.
how do they all fit in, right? They are not
Hmm.
exactly the same. One deals with more processing, all of
Hmm.
these things. So we can also kind of look into that too, and some examples, right? And what are the kind of NLP tasks, performed by both types of AI? So those would be the kind of things, and also the real world applications too. And that's actually even more important to see what kind of use cases we can leverage on discriminative AI, generative AI, across many different industries too. It doesn't have to be only for one kind. And obviously, we know. I think for me, I think I would immediately think of like, you know, um, more like manufacturing, like process their robotic, what you call like robotic process automation, right? RPA
Hmm. Hmm.
type of systems, right? Those things, and also then with generative AI, how can it be used, in place of traditional predictive models too?
Yeah,
Um, and then of course there are limitations and challenges, right? The
yeah.
current limitations, all of these approaches, and also AI hallucinations. How do we deal with that? From generative models, which is like so kind of notorious when it first came out, is all the hallucinations too, and verifications, right? And also
Hmm.
some future outlook as well. So I think those are kind of the points that we want to touch on. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That looks like an ambitious list, and let's
Yeah.
see how many we can pick up on
Sure.
and do justice to. So, and
Sure.
I think I'm pretty sure the audience will also agree with it that after all
Sure.
that we've been through in the last episode, even
That's
though we glossed over a lot of the topics, I think covering these topics will start filling in the gaps. And
mhm.
obviously, we have some future plans for other ones as well, right? So, in the next episode, the bits that we didn't cover in this episode, we will take them there, and all the
That's
other
right.
ones we talked about earlier that we plan to
Sure.
cover, we can pick them. So it's going to be an interesting couple of episodes
That's
covering a
right.
lot of these areas that we haven't covered. So yeah, I mean, where do you want to start now that we have such a big list? I think it helps to do this chronologically, the way you read it, right? I
Yeah.
I, I think
Sure.
you'll agree with it. Like history actually is very
History.
interesting, and we can learn a lot from it. And everybody's got a different view of the AI history.
Yeah.
So whatever we say is not set in stone, and whatever we say is not factual necessarily. What we say is what we have understood from all our different experiences and readings.
Yep.
So I mean, what's your experience of AI from
Yeah.
whenever you started in the technical and the
And
technology space to
sure.
now? Maybe even
Mhm.
predates to your time when you went to university, or even
Oh,
even before that, high school. So
sure,
um,
sure. Yeah, for me, I have to say I first got into computers. That's actually in university, or US we call it in college. And
mm,
so, before that, I say, I really did not have too much, with computer even, and even like with AI. So, not you know kind of like that. But anyway, for me, I think I should say that was when I got into computers. And then it was also AI was starting to come into being. I'd say it would be in the 90s. That's when I started
mhm,
to
mhm,
know about this. And also, at the time, I was living in Cambridge, or actually not exactly Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the
mhm,
U.S.,
mhm,
where
mhm,
MIT is. So
mhm.
they actually have a very famous AI lab, right?
Yeah,
That's kind
yeah.
of an early form of research, institution in the
Mhm.
U.S. too. And so I was following the AI lab and what they were doing, and in fact, they were doing virtual reality stuff for
Wow.
so that was my earliest kind of exposure
Mhm,
to AI stuff was through the virtual reality side of things. I was fascinated too by the fact that you could be really looking at virtual space and all of these, and you have to be at the time, right? You wear these special goggle kind of vision device, a visual device, to kind of look at these virtual worlds and stuff like that. Not that I've done a lot, but I was mostly interested, so I was reading up on that a lot too. So
mm,
that
interesting.
was for me my initial taste of AI at that point.
Yeah, nice, nice, interesting.
Yep.
I mean, I would say I agree with that. My perception, virtual reality has been developing in parallel with AI.
Yep.
I don't know how much of AI was influencing it and how much it was taking from
Yep.
AI to achieve what it achieved.
Yep.
But I'm thinking there's a good deal of it as the devices getting advanced and popular. They became more and more they were more and more enabled by AI. And today, like, a lot of it is like most of it is AI driven, isn't it? So but
Yep.
virtual reality was something that was more visual, that we could see and understand, and so our perception of AI connects with that very
Yeah.
quickly, isn't it? um
That's right.
yeah, but I do know, I remember when I was starting my career, expert systems is what I used to hear a lot about.
Yes.
And expert systems were what you have today is and generative AI, but at a much
Mm.
primitive level. It was
Yeah.
much more like a search engine that would be able
Yeah.
to understand tokens and
Yep.
tags and keywords, and that would be attached to different things, and they would connect those materials together and give you answers to, like, answers to maybe like your medical issue that you have. um,
That's
and 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 that took off in the 80s actually.
yeah.
um, I'm thinking there's a system called Mycin for medical diagnosis.
Oh.
Um, but that was the 80s. But 80s was also when chips only started getting more and more, like personal computers started getting more and more popular,
Yeah.
because otherwise computers were not available to individual, to the masses. Was only available to corporations and governments and bigger organizations, because not
Sure.
only they were massive, they were also very expensive, and
Mm.
they were expensive to buy, expensive to maintain, and unless you had some good reason to invest in them, you wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
um,
That's
but
right.
then the 80s, this is my understanding, the 80s is when it started getting democratized, and machines started getting more and more cheaper and cheaper, that
Hmm.
everybody could buy. And but it's not, there wasn't that much of an advancement, I think, in AI during that time. It was only in the early 1990s
Mhm.
when it started kicking off. Also, and lots of things happened in the 90s, right? You had mid 90s, you had the
Yeah,
internet. um,
exactly.
yeah, you had so many of these advancements, but it's along that time we were also having AI picking up
You're right.
slowly. Yeah,
Yeah,
and machine learning. Well, so you
machine
see, there's a thing here, right? With the advancements of the internet, and even before the internet, it was the emails,
yeah,
or actually alongside the internet, there was the email. People could have emails, right?
that's
But
right.
at that time, we didn't have this concept of spam so much. But
That's
as
right.
it got more and more popular, we had all these problems that we had with emails, right? So then
That's
people
right.
had to write spam filters, which
Yep.
then they would use algorithms to find out how to block an email. And
Yeah,
that's another step, I would think, that developed into AI. Now, there has been development of AI that has been classified and only announced much later. So
mhm.
then, if you look at that, then AI dates back even before the 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I'm talking about AI that's known to the general public, and that's
Mm,
available to the general public.
yeah,
And it's really hard to pinpoint the years, right? Because it's
exactly.
such a moving target and happening at the same time, and there's so much context to it as well, isn't it?
That's
Um,
true.
and so if you go further to the 1990s to 2000,
Mm,
and we are all is when we heard a lot about this buzzword called machine learning,
that's
which is a
right. Yeah,
subset of the AI technology, right? And then in the 2010s, around 2010s onwards, around that time, we started hearing this buzzword called deep learning, neural networks,
yeah,
right?
right.
That's when it started picking up even more.
Yeah.
So I know if you've heard of this company called DeepMind.
DeepMind,
Yeah.
yes,
Have
yes.
you heard of AlphaGo?
Not the Harvard?
AlphaGo, AlphaGo.
Oh, AlphaGo. Yes, then
Yeah,
I have they
AlphaGo.
made a movie too, right, out
Oh,
of
did
it
they?
too. I
Um,
think they
I
did.
think yes, you're right. They did make a movie out of it.
Yeah,
But if
something.
you know, AlphaGo is based on the game Go, which is supposed to be a
Okay.
very hard game for humans.
Yeah.
But AlphaGo beat the best Go player in the world,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and so far it stays unbeatable.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
it's
right.
simply because it has the advantage of recognizing so many patterns and able to search from between so many patterns.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you talk about AlphaGo. I think was it about the same time? Okay, so I worked at IBM before, right? So
Mhm.
IBM had Deep Blue.
Mm,
That's the chess player thing that
correct,
beat
correct.
Gary Kasparov. Yeah, that was in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
97.
We
So
forgot to mention that. That actually happened way before AlphaGo, isn't
that
it?
was before, right? Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought too.
definitely before
97.
AlphaGo.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So that
And
was
you
also
also have Watson, not to forget
yeah,
the Watson.
exactly. Watson
Yeah,
and yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's right. And IBM still carries that trademark of all of
Mm,
their AI products.
mm,
It's the Watson
mm,
family of
mm,
products. So yeah,
mm.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Well,
Cool.
very interesting. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's
and only now in the early 2020s, around the 2020s, is we started hearing about large language models, right?
yes,
But
that's
there
right.
have been a lot of things happening in the interim period. Like for example, there is this understanding, and there is this. It's not actually classified and explained so well. Data science and natural language processing have been happening in the parallel,
Mm-hmm.
whether they were used for artificial intelligence or not.
Yeah,
They have been there
they have.
because you can still use data science and
Oh,
just
yeah,
do statistical analysis and a lot of
that's
statistical related work, which may or not be AI, right?
that's right.
Similar
That's
with natural language processing, you could do a
mhm.
lot of natural language processing with
Yeah,
which may not be AI. It's only when you do natural language NLU and NLG is when
yes,
the elements of AI may come into play, isn't it?
yeah,
So and NLP has been playing a role, and data science has been playing a role in the industry for quite some time as well.
yeah,
And sometimes, or many times, for the lack of a better word, or just to be stylish, they would
yeah.
call that AI.
Oh, yeah, stylish. Yeah, I like the yeah.
Yeah.
I like that
So
descriptions.
I think in a nutshell, that's kind of my understanding of the timeline. And obviously, when we dig deeper, and if anybody's interested, we can always get together and find out the minutest detail. I'm sure somewhere
Sure.
on Wikipedia there's a timeline of AI development if we just
Oh,
search
yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
And maybe
That's
someone is probably outlined something even better than that and deeper and more granular than what we're talking about.
Sure, sure. In fact, like now I think of it too, why didn't I do it, right? I actually, because I have done some introductory topic on AI, and I
Mhm.
actually found this timeline that maybe let me also quickly can share this timeline that I found on here. So let me
Mm.
kind of quickly share in here, and I think it's in my background right now, or yeah, let me kind
Yeah.
of go back. Yeah, oops.
So
you
I
know,
actually have found two links on Wikipedia. One is the timeline of artificial intelligence. The other
uh,
one is history of artificial intelligence, and I think both
okay.
are more or less
Yeah.
talking
Okay.
the same thing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
so
So,
if you want to open any one of them, I can share the link with you. If
yeah,
you want to
okay.
open any one of them,
Yeah,
um,
let me do this one thing too. Why is it? Oh, wait. I cannot. That is kind of strange. I cannot actually share my screen for some reason. Yeah, I was able to share my screen, but anyway, I because I found my thing. So for some reason, I'm not sure like why I cannot.
no. So you have a new challenge before you. Mm. AI
Yeah.
is getting to you, whether it's through fake news or through technical problems.
Yeah, that's why it's now taking the problems. I'm not sure why. What is going on with this streaming thing? And I normally would be able to share my screen, right? So now I cannot share my screen at all. And somehow my yeah. Anyway, but maybe next time I'll show this timeline too that
If
I
you
mentioned
share the
on.
link with me, I can share it, and
Okay.
that would, yeah. I also
Let me
shared a couple of links on the history and the timeline of AI,
yeah, you
and
know
we
what
could also cover that if at all you feel that
yeah,
we haven't
actually,
covered it.
for me, I can do like a banner too. So I can actually do it on the banner too. So here we go. Add, and I can just show. So see over
Oh,
here, it's a bit long, this thing.
mhm,
Yeah.
right.
But if you go to this, and that's what is actually
It, it's not clickable, but maybe if you send it
uh,
to me and I can just
yeah,
show it.
I can also yeah. Let me copy it, and I can then show it to you. But I like I said, I need to more technical problems, and I can share it to you on our we have our own Discord. Or what I can do too is I can share it, of course, to the
If you
I make
share the link, I can open up the link because that
yeah,
would be easier.
yeah, and I can actually do it on the chat as well. There's a chat. I totally forgot I can
Oh,
do it.
yes, of
Too.
course, you can share it in the chat. If you
Yeah,
just post it in the chat,
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
then everybody gets it, whoever signed in, isn't it?
exactly.
So
Let
you're
me
making that link very popular. Oh, there you
yeah,
go. Yeah. Okay.
that's right. So
Now I can open it up, and I can
we
now
can open
share it as well. So
yeah,
let
yeah,
me see if I can share a tab.
that's right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I can.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah, cool.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yep, that's right. There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So what is it saying? It says 1938 to 1946, golden age of science fiction.
That's right.
1950, can machines think, by Alan Turing.
Alan
Okay.
Turing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
The
one.
Turing
Yeah,
test that came from there, right?
that's right.
1949, Mark One, the
Yeah,
first sorted
that's right.
programmed computer is invented.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
Then then there's 1955,
that's right.
1956.
Thanks. Yeah,
Then you
dot
have the DARPA funds at
dot
AI at MIT,
yeah,
1963, 65 Moore's Law,
law.
1970 is 3 to 8 years. You have machines with the general intelligence of a human being.
Yep.
Maybe that's a book.
Yeah, that's right.
And then
Exactly.
1968, by the year 2001, we will have machines with intelligence that matched or exceeds humans.
Exceeded
Now,
humans. Yeah.
it wasn't 2001, it was
Yeah, that's
2010. So
the
it
same.
wasn't too bad. But there's one thing that's not mentioned here is, I quite always like to look at ELIZA, which was, I think, developed in the
Yeah,
MIT lab.
you're right. It's an MIT because it's used by Emacs, right? Emacs, the
Correct.
editor, is using ELIZA to do the doctor thing,
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. I didn't know
That's
that
another thing I
connection.
used. Yeah, when I first started coding, it's actually I was using Emacs
Hmm.
at my work too. So yeah, but I really like it too. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
mind.
I
Yeah,
like Emacs.
yeah,
And the one you just mentioned, 1997, Deep Blue defeats Gary Kasparov
yeah.
in
That's right.
chess.
Yeah, that's right. So that's how. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. This is the first publicly available Yes, from
Mhm.
Dragon Systems. I actually used it in around that time.
Dragon
I've
system.
used it. Dragon
Yeah,
Systems. It was very popular.
yeah,
In
yeah,
fact, there were games. In fact, there were games.
yep,
The computer games we would play that would have
yep.
speech in it.
Oh, the
Games that would have speech in it, and it
speed?
would be speech. Like
Okay.
it would say things on the
Oh,
speaker.
oh, yeah, 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 the Dragon
Speech.
systems, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Not the Dragon systems. The games itself would have speech in it.
Oh,
Meaning
okay.
the games it would be like you're playing something and it would say something. If you
Ah,
reach the
that's right.
milestone, it say something. If you
Yeah,
I mean, you already have this by default now, but at that time it was a big thing because the
yeah,
speaker was only used to play some music,
that's right.
MIDI music, or
Yeah,
like beeps and things
yeah,
like that. It
that's
was
right.
never used to
Yeah,
play audio.
yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah,
and somehow the makers of the game figured out how to play speech on
yeah.
different audio devices.
Oh, oh, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how much of that has to do with AI, but
Mm.
that was considered quite an achievement.
Quite interesting. Yeah, yeah. So you're saying that they are actually not using AI back then, or maybe
They
there is
were
some
using AI
point
back then
they were.
because the games sometimes, or a lot of times, would have intelligence in them that
Yeah.
you would think like another human is exhibiting, right?
Ah,
In the
okay. Yeah,
games, right? If you
yeah,
played strategy games or even later on, and
yeah,
actually the gaming industry picked up AI a long
yeah.
time ago,
Oh,
way
oh,
before I think way before many of the others picked up.
that's
Nobody
right.
talks about it, and there's not much, or there
Yeah,
is probably, and we are not looking. But I
that's
don't see any of these talking about. So maybe we should look into
mm.
AI, history of AI in the gaming industry,
In the
games
gaming
industry.
industry too.
Mm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. True, true, true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Um, yeah. So we should look that up, right? History of
Yeah,
AI.
I'm just typing that in. Oh yeah, artificial intelligence in video games. There's already a Wikipedia link.
Oh, okay.
History of video games, but I think artificial intelligence of video games is what's more interesting for me.
Okay.
So I've just shared the link, and since I am able to share, I'll switch to I'll
Sure.
switch to
Yeah.
okay,
Okay. You can switch
I'll switch
to
to
that.
the Wikipedia page that I want to show,
Okay.
and
Yep.
give me a
And
second,
yeah,
and
and
then then we can go through it together.
let me
Um,
hide this now. Okay. And then I can do a show on stream, right? You want me to show on the stream now? This one, right?
yeah, you are showing it. It's visible.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, what is the history of video games? Let's look into it. The game AI.
Mm.
Okay, I'm not seeing history here.
Ah,
Okay,
yeah. Yes,
NIM in 1951, published in 1952. Okay, one of the
yeah.
first examples of AI is computerized game of NIM. Never heard of it.
Yeah,
Pong. Okay,
Pong
it
I
was
have heard
yes, I have heard of Pong and played as well. But
that.
was there advanced technology in the year? It was made 20 years before Pong. Oh, okay. Pong was used as a reference.
Yeah.
The games that featured a single player mode with enemies started appearing in 1970s. The first notable ones for arcade. So a lot of these, even though we don't know if we can classify them as AI, like enemy generation, like genetic algorithms
Oh,
played
genetic.
a,
Yeah.
yeah, genetic algorithms played a role in games.
Oh, yes. I have heard. Yes, that's
Mm,
their early
okay,
form.
here's another one. Pac-Man introduced AI patterns to maze games.
Yeah, that's right.
Galaxian in 1979 added more complex and varied enemy movements. 1979. What kind of games?
79.
Hmm.
Wow.
1978. Space Invaders.
Oh, Space Invader. Yes, I played that. So that's already using, yeah,
So
some
what was that? Was it like a handheld game device, not on a computer game, right?
Space Invaders. You can do video too. I do
No,
agree.
the first ones that came out.
Oh, the very first one,
Yeah,
right?
like
Yeah,
the
you're right.
Nintendo games, right? That
Yeah,
we
they're
know.
Nintendo. You're right. They are specific. Yeah,
They
you have
were,
to do it on.
those were developed on, they are, I don't know what's
They're,
the real good word for it, but they're
yeah,
not on computers, the
not on
ones we have.
computers. You're right. Yeah, the
Mm,
very first one. Yeah, like
correct.
Pac-Man too. Also not on
Yeah,
computers.
Pac-Man. A lot of these games came on
On
those game devices, and
devices. Yeah,
later on they were ported to computers.
that's right.
Karate Champ later introduced AI patterns for fighting games.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I've never played this game. First Queen, never heard of it. Action
yeah,
RPG game.
yeah.
Dragon Quest, I've heard of this, I
Dragon
think.
me too. Yeah, they are role play, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the role playing things. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Then these are tactic role playing. Secret of Mana, don't know what that is.
that's
Wow. So there were so many of them that were already using AI
yeah, that's
in
right.
or something like AI. Oh yeah, you have an example here. Watson, Jeopardy
What's it?
playing
Yeah.
computer
Oh,
game.
Jeopardy! That's right.
Yeah.
I've heard too. That's right. Yeah. Yes, it's quite
So
exciting.
there's a lot here. Computer chess,
Yes, that's right.
Sogi. I don't know what that is. What
So
is it? An artificial intelligence concerned creation of computer games which can play Sogi.
Sogi. Yeah, I don't know what that is too. I've heard of it, but I've never played.
Mm.
So,
Go,
oh, yeah, yeah.
checkers, Othello, poker.
Poker. Okay.
So I mean, this is probably a very small list and not exhaustive, but
Mm-hmm.
game AI and heuristic algorithms um, have been worked on and developed for ages.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, this is a massive page. I think we should share this with our
Oh,
viewers,
yeah. Of
and
the
they can have a cheating AI. Gamers always ask if AI cheats.
yeah.
Presumably, they can complain if they lose. Yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
thing is, AI has an advantage over us, right? So if they win
True.
through whatever means, because it
True.
could be through whatever means, we
That's right.
don't know.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool. I think we've spent quite a bit of time on the history, isn't it?
On the
Do you,
history
do you want to
now.
do you want to switch to
Yeah.
something else, or is there
Yeah.
some other topic you have in
Yeah.
mind, or question,
That's
or
right.
something?
I think we have definitely spent enough time on the history, but that's
Yeah.
one of the things we thought we needed to cover too. So
Yeah,
history club
absolutely, absolutely.
is good.
But we haven't covered enough of history because there's so much of history to summarize. And
Oh,
where do we start? And like which
yeah.
stream of history? Because everybody's collection of historical events
Yeah, that's right.
will be missing something that the other might have, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know if we want to talk about transition, right, from this traditional models, right, the discriminative models to generative models.
Mhm.
Or actually, there was also a lot of like supervised, unsupervised training, all these things, right? We want to cover. Do we want to talk about that too, or maybe another episode? Reinforcement learning, right? All of these are also very important concepts too. And then there are also technical comparisons, right? We want to talk about the architecture of these models too.
Mhm.
Um, and any kind of training methods, what are the differences, right, between the training methods, data requirements, all of these things, right? How do they compare? Or do we want to talk about it at this
Mhm.
episode? Or,
Yeah, I mean, we could lightly touch on the technical comparisons between discriminative and generative.
yeah,
And example could be the generative AI. We could use an example of
sure.
spam email classifier, and for generative AI, we could use text generation with
Yeah,
GPT-3 or any other GPT, any other model, not just
that's
GPT.
right. Yeah,
Um, and just gloss over it. Obviously, the internal details will vary because both of these topics are very high level,
yeah,
and just to
yeah,
say like any specific things that this topic only has this won't be justice to that topic.
yeah.
And I think we may lose our audience if we start going into the nitty
True.
gritty details of it.
Depends on-
and
True.
and it'll be a fair good opportunity to do like each of these as a separate
Mhm.
detailed episode,
Oh,
right,
sure.
where we
Sure.
actually have examples. But we can gloss over like I mean, I don't know how many minutes do you have more for this episode, but we
Sure.
can gloss over
Mm,
um, some of the things one
sure.
by one for both of the things, like for discriminative and generative, and
Agenda.
take them one by one and do a very high level comparison, and then go deeper maybe eventually in the next episodes when we have, and we can share some links as well, because obviously there's a lot
Mm.
of information floating around on the internet
Oh, sure.
on these topics.
Oh, sure.
So
Sure. Yeah.
do you want to
I think
start with some questions, like do you want to have like between discriminative and generative, like I've already given you hints on what we could use as examples. Like, do you have anything that you want to tie in so that we can kick it off?
to kick it off about this, between generative and
Discriminative and generative
discriminative
AI, yeah.
and AI. Yeah.
The technical comparison. Where do you want to start? What's your idea of discriminative AI and the
Oh,
technical
okay.
aspects behind it? What's your idea of generative AI and the technical aspects behind it?
Okay, well, for generative AI, well, at least I'm aware. Well, that's kind of the area that I've worked on mostly. Although I have to say the discriminative AI, I have had some exposure because when I was at IBM, there were Watson and kind of just able to actually have to present some fundamental concepts of traditional machine learning, and that's why I'm aware of supervised, unsupervised training, reinforcement learning. I actually did a joint presentation to work with. We're illustrating using event streaming actually, but
Hmm.
to play a game of Pac-Man too, and
Hmm.
using like reinforcement learning. So
Hmm.
we did that as well,
Hmm.
but that's actually traditional,
Hmm.
you know, yeah,
Discriminative AI. Yeah.
that's right.
Although reinforcement learning plays a role in the training of generative AI models, just to keep
Okay,
in mind, it's called
okay.
RLHF,
Oh, okay.
or human in the loop RL,
Human in the loop. Yes, that's
or,
right.
or it's called reinforcement learning human feedback.
With
So there's
human
a lot of these interchangeable terminologies for that, but that's for another time.
or another
Uh,
time. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Now, well, okay, so that's discriminative versus generative, but generative, or at least I know, right? There's that. If we kind of look into it, then we're looking at the two main activity of machine learning, which is first is the pre-training of the model. Once it's
mhm,
ready, then you do machine learning inferencing too.
mhm,
So I think the generative AI side, it seems to be a lot of effort, all these excitement that are by vendors are really focusing more on the inferencing side because that's where they can actually make more money. But you're still training all the models and all of these things, but they're often like training models is so expensive
mhm.
that you don't ordinary people won't be dealing with training models. So if anything, we train any pre-training of models would be maybe smaller kind of private data set for specific use that are not exposed to the outside. So I think, isn't it true, or am I correct too? My understanding
Yeah,
is
I
that
think you briefly touched on this generative AI quite well. So if I have to summarize discriminative
okay,
AI and generative AI, let me take, like, for example, them step by step, and then we both can expound on them. Is
sure.
First of all, discriminative AI, which is the traditional AI, which we've been always been doing,
Hmm.
is actually the bigger subset,
Okay,
and generative AI is borrowing components, sometimes a lot of the components of discriminative AI, and making its own paradigm
that's right. Yeah.
and building stuff that is no longer discriminative AI, but it
That's
has built the new stuff using the building blocks of discriminative
oh,
AI.
that's right.
Okay, that's like to kick it off. But if I have to just, like, say, draw my lens deeper into discriminative AI, then
Hmm.
let's take an example of a spam email classifier. And this is one specific example. So we're narrowing down, we're taking a very small slice of discriminative AI. Discriminative AI is
Yeah,
lots more things than just spam classification, right?
sure,
So
sure.
when you do something like a spam classification, and
Yep,
that falls on the discriminative, if you use the discriminative AI methodology, then
yep.
you would then look into how do you build a spam classifier. The word itself, classifier, there tells you, oh, you need something that is a classification like model.
Mhm.
um, but sometimes models have funny names, even though they may not be called classification model, they still are used for classification. So the
Mhm.
first thing that will come to mind, oh, the simplest model you want to use is a logistic regression or a logistic classifier. Actually,
Oh,
it'll be the logistic classifier because that does classification. So
okay,
that model algorithm will be able to classify or help you classify whether this mail is a spam mail or not a spam mail
okay.
by first you train it. Now, that's one method of training a model or
Mhm.
building a model using under the discriminative AI umbrella
Yeah.
to do spam uh,
Yes.
classification, right?
Yeah.
Spam email classification.
Okay.
And is that effective? No. The strength, yes and no, right? Depending on
Mhm.
the data, the strength of the quality of the data, and the strength of the algorithm itself.
That's right.
People are using a lot more advanced methods in the discriminative world as well to
Mhm.
classify emails
That's right.
that are spam emails, right?
Yeah.
So that would be an example. And then how do you train such a model, right?
Mhm.
So if you have to train models in the discriminative world, you need
Mhm.
data, you need an
That's right.
algorithm.
That's right.
and you need human effort to bring them together, you know,
Mhm.
wrap them up with different things, and then you get a model out of it, right?
Mhm.
The quality of the model is directly proportional to a few things: the quality of the data, the
Mhm.
quality of the algorithm, and the
That's right.
quality of whatever effort is being put together. Like, any tricks or any
That's
gotchas that
right.
you've applied to put them together, or you've been laxed and made a lot of mistakes, then you
Mm.
get that reflects into the model, right?
True.
And so for doing spam filter classification, the training is, you need to have labeled and unlabeled data, right? You need
Okay.
to have both. So basically, well, you to get it to do it easily, you need to have labeled data. What's the meaning of that? It means that you have rows and columns of your information about each of the emails,
Mhm.
and then you have a label, a field for each of the email. Will say whether it's actually a spam or not a spam.
Mm.
Then you take the machine learning algorithm and you do other processes in
Okay.
between.
Yeah.
You process the data, you pass it on to the machine learning algorithm in the way it needs to receive it,
Okay.
and then a model comes out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm only glossing over the surface here. There are a lot more smaller steps in between and before and after,
Sure.
and then you get a model, and then that model, because
Mm.
it has been trained and told that if it's a mail
Oh,
like that, then it's a spam mail. If it's a mail like this,
yeah.
but that still leads to something called overfitting or underfitting,
Oh,
meaning either the model becomes too generic or it
okay.
becomes too specific.
Yeah.
So when it becomes too generic, it becomes
Yeah.
um, like
It it
its
can be
accuracy is not
it
necessarily high.
accuracy. Yeah.
And then when it becomes too specific, it's giving you
Yeah.
high accuracy, but only for some types of data,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. That
So, I mean, maybe there are other combinations of issues as well with this.
that's
I'm only
right.
very naively classifying the problems here.
Mm.
So, again, I said quality of the data and the quality of the processing of the
That's
data and the quality
yeah.
of the algorithm will
That's right.
define. So that's why people are using different techniques. So quality of the techniques is the quality of the human effort, right?
Yeah.
So
True.
the different techniques you use, the more sophisticated you make it. So
Sure.
then people started using unlabeled data
Mhm.
to make the machine learning algorithm understand, instead
Okay.
of saying this is spam and this is not spam, make it
Mm.
understand which is spam and which is not spam using things like clustering and things like that, right?
Oh.
And then there are methods that are in between. That is,
Mhm.
you give it some labeled data, some unlabeled data, and then it figures out the other data that has no labels on it, whether they are spam or not spam, and it learns that way.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and then you have matrices called something like confusion matrix.
Okay.
Confusion matrix will analyze your results of your end
Yeah.
result of your
You
model, whether it has said the correct answer or the wrong answer, whether it said the wrong answer for the correct answer and the correct answer for the wrong answer,
yeah.
and then it creates a confusion matrix. And it's interesting to see that you have false positive, false negative, true positive, true negative, and there are matrices.
Okay.
That is what happens in the discriminative AI world in a nutshell. There are many more things that happen.
Oh,
And some of the advantages and disadvantages I mentioned are very roughly correct.
okay.
You accurately have to narrow down into it. They may not be applicable, but that's not really the issue. What we're talking about here, we're trying to just get to understand the
Mhm.
technology and the technical comparison, right? So
That's
that's your discriminative AI. Now,
right.
there are some principles in discriminative AI, and there is a flow and a pipeline, right? The flow and the
Yep.
pipeline is data set, processing of the data set,
That's right.
training data set, test
Mm.
data set, validation data set, training pipeline, train
Mm.
your model,
Mhm.
test your model, model is out, model has an accuracy, model has other metrics, model
Yep.
is put into production, model
Mhm.
is monitored, model is seeing unseen data, blah, 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 right?
Yep. That's
That
right.
whole outside, that whole superficial
Mm.
flow from start to
Yeah.
finish
Yeah.
also is applicable in the generative AI world.
Yeah, so that
There
was
are some differences, and I'll touch on that.
mhm.
So, firstly, now if you take the generative AI example,
Mhm.
what would you do in a generative AI? It is not discriminative, so it's not going to tell you true or false. It's not
That's
going to. It will tell you these answers, but it won't tell you. It hasn't learned it in a discriminative manner. Like in a
mm,
discriminative manner, it's quite binary, right? It's
that's
either
right.
this or it's that. In
That's
a
right.
generative AI, it's non-deterministic.
That's right. Yes.
So, firstly, an example of text generation is an
Mhm.
example. So, um, and a text generation, again, how would you train it? You would use something like a transformer. model,
Yeah,
right?
okay, that's what it
And
is.
then you take the text, you parse the text, you tokenize it,
Mm,
you process the text, and then you have a model that has understood that, and then
yeah,
that model can now answer questions
mhm,
or be used to generate more text, because what it knows is, based on the fashion in which this text has been created,
yep,
if you give it a few words, it'll able to complete that word and keep generating more words till those words make sense,
yep,
based on the fashion in which it has already learned,
yep,
right? So if it knows that every time after the you have a proper noun,
yep,
or you have a common noun, or you have, if you have an after an and, you have starting of something, when you put a full stop, you end a sentence, you start a new sentence after that. If it has
that's
seen all of these patterns, it knows about it,
yeah,
it'll
yeah,
be able to generate them.
generate, yeah,
So text generation is a very simple and naive example of
mm,
generative AI.
yeah,
Yeah. So we talked about that example as being a text generator using any kind of a GPT
that's
model,
right, yeah,
a GPT model, or yeah, it'll be a GPT model. Sorry,
true,
it won't.
yeah,
And then a
yeah,
transformer. The
that's
architecture underlying the GPT model is transformer models
yeah,
architecture.
that's right, yeah,
That's a topic on its own. We can
yeah,
cover in another time.
I was going
Now,
to say,
yeah, and now the training method of this is unsupervised training. What it's called. What's the
okay,
meaning of unsupervised training? Is
mhm,
supervised training is,
yep,
it's like how we had in school when we
yeah,
grew up. We
that's
went
right,
to kindergarten. We says A for apple, B for ball, and so on and so forth. All those 26
yeah,
letters, all the
um,
numbers were supervised. We
super,
were
yeah,
supervised, and we taught that, right? We
that's
weren't
right,
we weren't said A for apple, B for ball, C for D
yeah,
for go figure it out. No,
that's right, yeah,
unsupervised learning is go figure it out.
you go fig yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, yeah,
And
yeah,
unsupervised learning has lots of facets, can contain clustering, can, it's a whole
it's
subject of its
it's
own.
everything,
And
yeah,
unsupervised learning is quite interesting because unsupervised learning is looking into patterns. Because, for
mhm,
example, when there are spams, you'll
mm,
have 90% of your email that'll be good. It'll all be
yeah,
like a 10% of the email is spam,
yeah, okay,
right? That is still a lot in numbers, but from the
that's right,
percentage corpus. So when they have a data set,
yeah,
the balance would be, it's like more like anomaly detection, right?
that's
Like
right, yeah,
every now and then you get a spam. Not every mail that you get a spam and you only get 10
that's
good
right,
mails.
yeah,
That's not a
yeah,
balanced data set. So
that's right,
unsupervised learning is taught.
yeah,
Unsupervised learning, the process is created so that
it's
you go through the data set and understand
mhm, yeah,
what are the patterns. Oh, I only have 90% good mails and 10% not so good mails, right?
yeah,
That
that
means the frequency in which I'm going to get emails are also going to be, every 10th mail might be a spam,
that's right,
right?
yeah,
But also 90% of the mails that are not spam look like this. These are good mails.
mhm,
10% of the mails that are spam is bad mails. You should
that's right,
watch out for these kinds of bad mails.
yeah,
And that's kind of, it's not exactly how the algorithm works, but like a very
yeah,
uh, high level view of it.
yeah,
And discriminative generative AI, as I was telling you earlier, is using not just unsupervised learning. Well, they're not.
being
Everybody's using a
yeah,
different method of, and nobody's publishing it. That's why it's
yeah,
hard to know how the models are built.
that's right,
They are using a combination of many things,
yeah,
including reinforcement
reinforcement,
learning with human
another,
feedback.
yeah,
But
that's
they
right,
have noticed that using unsupervised learning and then reinforcement
and
learning
yeah,
with human feedback, you're able to tweak and bring a higher accuracy to the model. So you see, that is a notch higher, or a couple of notches higher, I would say, or
sure,
at least one notch higher than what we are doing in the machine learning world. Because in the
yeah,
machine learning world, the science is flat.
yeah,
Here's the data set. Now you have to do the diligence to find out, is this a balanced data set? Is the data quality good? And all that stuff. Over
true,
here, you give it any data set. Of course, they might be doing cleaning and processing
yeah,
purpose. I'm not saying they don't do it. But on
that's
top of that, then they tweak the model by using processes
yeah,
that help get the best quality of the output from the model,
yeah,
right? So because for example, if a human is involved, then they see, no,
that's
this is false positive, no, this is false negative,
yeah,
and then this is the right answer. Then it goes and learns that, right?
that's right,
And it stops
yeah,
making that false positive and false negatives every time. So
exactly,
the error margin can reduce massively.
yes, yeah,
So
sure,
that, and discriminative AI basically have these thing called training and retraining, where they will train
yeah,
the whole thing again. With
okay, that's
generative AI, you cannot even think of pre-training or retraining. If
retraining,
you're
that's
taking up, yeah, because it could take days and it'll cost you millions.
yeah,
So
that's right,
there's something called fine tuning, which is the
yeah,
word that's used. Now, in
It's
the discriminative AI, the word fine tuning is different.
okay, so there's no fine-tuning
No,
in
there is, but it means something different
oh,
than
okay,
what it means in the discriminative AI, in the generative AI world.
okay.
The training that happens in discriminative AI is the retraining of everything or training from scratch.
Mm.
In the generative AI, you do it once in a while. People used to do it in the past, but it was super expensive, and it still is. But then when you actually saying I'm training the model, usually in the generative AI world, you're saying I'm fine tuning the model.
Okay, okay, so
Yeah,
that's
which is
yeah,
not retraining everything, but
training.
training it in such a way that you build a layer on top of what you just done, and
Okay,
not build everything from scratch.
not from yeah, because it's too
You
but
freeze,
is
you freeze the layers, and you build a new layer on top of it.
yeah. But how about like, we know that generative AI is very expensive, but what
Mhm.
about discriminative AI? Does it mean it's less expensive? Yeah, I guess
It's
it's less
relatively less expensive compared to generative AI. But
okay.
don't forget that generative AI is using the discriminative AI methodologies to do the training
To
at the
do
very high level, right?
oh, yeah.
Data set, pipeline, model
Yeah,
training, model
okay.
monitoring,
Yeah,
and there are bits and pieces of processes in between.
that's right.
So what it's done is taking the discriminative AI processes and expanded them in many folds, and of
Oh,
course added its own music to it,
yeah,
right?
okay.
Own flow, because every vendor that is, like for example Claude, do massive amounts of testing. That's why their
Oh,
models are really good,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Whereas
right.
open AI's models, I'm
Yeah,
not saying that they don't do what they don't do. They have
that's
not been heard of doing as much
as much of
testing
a test.
as Claude is doing.
Yeah,
And Claude, like the makers of Claude, Anthropic, they they were focusing on reasoning, building reasoning into the model way before
yeah,
we even heard OpenAI. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not saying they don't do it, and
yeah,
obviously someone on YouTube will catch me out
that's
on this,
correct. Yeah,
but I'm hearing this and I'm seeing this of Claude, of Anthropic, the company, doing
yeah,
a lot more justice
well,
when they are processing.
yeah,
But
that's
the irony still is OpenAI's models are still a notch or two better than Claude in some senses. But I
yeah.
still feel Claude is quite intelligent.
To
So
me,
yeah,
I find Claude to be very good,
yeah.
actually.
So does that answer your question, or did you have
Yeah,
something sub
yeah, that
question?
was you really
Yeah,
went into a lot of the details I really, totally, really appreciate because that's when because like I said, I had bits and pieces of discriminative AI, the traditional, the ML, you do all the processing, data set and cleaning, cleansing, oh, blah, blah, blah. But then nobody actually, I didn't have time to look into, well, how does it kind of jump to generative AI? But you explained it very well. So
cool.
really,
Thank you.
it's
Yeah,
very
I
good.
mean, yeah. Last time I think we were jumping about and hobbling about topics,
That's right.
but I felt this time we are more settled to
Yeah,
go into each of them and give it to justice. And now we only glossed over them, huh? Just to give you
that's
the
right.
idea. And we may have said some things that are not exactly correct, but
Mhm.
that doesn't matter because the um, the template and archetype of what we said is correct,
That's right. Yeah.
right?
True,
The specifics need not necessarily be correct, and we don't need to use the
true.
specifics. We need to understand the holistic
Yeah,
first,
the whole
and
list.
then go top down into it instead
Yeah,
of going bottom up, which most people do to
yeah,
learn
true,
and do stuff.
true.
I'm not saying
Agree.
they shouldn't do it, but it's just if they do it, they'll converge much later than the ones who go top down.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I think these two topics that we covered today, timeline and
yeah. And the
discriminative
history,
versus
timeline, and the
generative.
primitive. Yeah, like a more of
Yeah,
how
and
yeah, it's
correct.
very good. So, yeah, we will have more episodes too. I mean, as such, it's already wow, we thought we would keep everything within an hour, but it's
Yeah,
just so
you
much.
can't keep it in an hour. Like if
Yeah,
you only say the few things, then we will keep
exactly,
it in an hour, right? But we
exactly.
have to really do justice to the topic because obviously
Yeah,
people are coming to our channel to listen and spend time. They
that's
don't probably have the may not have probably the time to go back
true.
and do
Yeah,
further research on it because everybody's so busy with their work. Some
that's
people are probably driving
that's
or
true.
going on a holiday or going to work while they're listening to our chat. And the
That's
next thing they do is
yeah,
they'll switch off and they'll do their work. They won't have
that's
the
true.
time to go and
See
so yeah,
to
I think um, picking up the right topics, going to enough depth, and then if those topics are important and interesting, doing
true.
further research on them separately is a great stuff.
Yeah,
I think
wonderful.
for us and for the viewers as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so folks, if you are online live too, if you have questions, feel free to put it on the chat, the channel, and you can still put there too. I'm going to check it too, even if we're offline, or kind of reach out to us, right? I think I have well, on this channel that is mine on Twitch or YouTube, you can reach me too. I have my contact information and of course Manny as well. I think I put it there too. So let me make
Yeah.
sure also
I'm
as
not hard to find on the internet, so
yeah, yeah.
it's all
Well,
right if there's no
yeah,
contact information on me.
that's right.
But as we did with the last video, which we
Yeah,
should put a link of it under this video,
yeah.
is we did a summary of our whole presentation of our whole 50
Oh,
minutes,
yeah,
was
the
it?
the 15
And we
minutes.
put the comments of the summary with the
Oh, yeah,
timestamps in
yeah,
the comment section of the video.
yeah, that's
So we will try to do that as much as possible for every episode we do,
yep,
and hopefully that will help our audience. And just to let
yeah,
you know that if you come back later on to the video and you hadn't had a chance
then
to watch this video,
yep,
or heard it, then
right,
please look at the comment section for the summary section,
yeah,
timestamped, so you can go to the specifics. And as you know, AI will scan our video and the comments, and
yeah,
it'll bring you to the video, right video, hopefully, and
yep,
also and it'll help you with the links. It'll help you take
yeah,
to the right time frames in the video
yep,
that you would like to hear and watch.
yeah,
So yeah, I think we are going to try to do that as much as possible, and
yep,
and there'll be probably more goodies about AI in our coming up episodes. Mary,
that's
I'm sure you have your
yeah,
Pandora box full of
yeah.
more stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So here too, I put it on the chat. You can click on it, but I also am displaying it here too. That I give you the link to our YouTube recording of the first episode,
Yeah,
and Nanny took the time to generate this whole summary, summarizing beautifully. So yeah, please visit the first episode if you missed it, and also yeah, again leave us comments, on
yeah,
our
yeah,
all of these episodes, and follow us too. Please
yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please make conversation, because that's how we can understand whether you like what we are saying, or if you want to
Yeah.
talk about something else, you have other questions, you have other burning questions that you're not getting answers anywhere else. And in the description section of this video, we'll also try to put links in, for example, links to a previous episode
Yeah,
which Mary has kindly already shared. But
yeah,
it's good to have them in handy places, right? So you don't have to look around.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Mary, do you
Alright,
want to
good.
say anything in the closing note before we
Closing note.
pull the plug?
Yeah, I think in closing, we just wanted to again, right, ask folks for your feedback, for your questions, more questions. We invite you to more conversations, follow us, and yeah, if you even want to join our episode, you have something to share, we'll be happy to consider that as well. But otherwise too, yeah, follow us so then you'll see when we will be doing the next episode. Although maybe we should establish a more cadence and maybe publish it so then people will know when we're doing it live, right? So
Yeah, yeah. I think that would be a nice thing to have. Maybe from episode 3 or 4 onwards, or even two, maybe. Yeah, yeah. Well,
that's
this is
right.
the two episode from 3 or 4 onwards,
That's right.
and then let's see how that goes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good proposal. That would be into the new year, right? Because the
yeah,
next
that's
episode
right.
is only going to
Yeah,
be either late November or early December, and
yeah,
the fourth episode would be sometime
yeah.
around January for
In the
sure.
January should
Yeah,
be.
because people
Yeah.
will switch off during December and not want to listen to us.
That's right. It's holiday time. So yeah. But if
Cool.
you want to learn about AI, maybe we can do a holiday episode.
Yeah, we could do an holiday Christmas episode of AI, like
That's right.
frozen
Yeah,
AI in the snow or something like that.
exactly. So yeah. All
Maybe
right.
talk about data centers that are running AI in the s-
Ah,
in,
that's right. Yeah.
under the under 150 feet of snow in places like in the
Yeah.
Arctic regions of the
In the
world.
Arctic.
If I don't,
That's
not
true.
Antarctica. Well,
Yeah,
you might be
Antarctica
surprised to know
is
there's 5,000 people. Well, they're probably all researchers living
in
in Antarctica. At
Antarctica.
least that's what
Yeah.
Wikipedia says. So.
That's right. Yeah, they're seasonal, right? They live there, but I can't imagine, right? If it's winter time in the Arctic, right? In those places, they don't even get to see the sun. I don't know how people can survive like that,
Mm.
but I
They
guess
get they get sun for a month or two. I don't know how many months.
oh yeah, like either they get into summer, then it's bright every day, right?
It's the whole
24 hours
day. Yeah,
bright
the
sun. Yeah,
days are much shorter. and then
Yeah,
the nights are all longer in the opposite time of the year.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Anyways, we digressed from our closing
Okay,
note.
yeah, no worries. So yeah, my closing notes is that please follow us and come back again to listen to us and connect with us. So thank you so much, and thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
everyone.
Annie. And yeah,
Thanks,
so I'm
Mary.
going to go into closing of this, and then we'll see you next time.
Yeah,
Okay.
see you soon.
Oh,
Take
thank
care,
you.
guys.
Okay.
Everyone, take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.
Bye. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see, and I should do this. Okay.